Hey, so it's Josh McEwen here with episode 18 of Dufferin Spotlight on Business, where we bring your community to you by letting you know what's available in the area while highlighting the advantages of shopping local. And this week we have the second part of our discussion with Ryan Hancock of the Campfire Poets. If you never caught the first half, be sure to check it out. Anyways, thank you Ryan for making this possible, and thank you our audience for listening. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dufferin Spotlight on Business. When you were younger, did you think you'd be doing this?
I always wanted to do it. It's funny. I did get good support from family and stuff like that. That they always were happy with me. My dad used to play music when he was a kid. My mother is from Prince Edward Island, and she has 13 or 14 brothers and sisters. So I'm related to about a third of the island, I think, and about 90% of them are musicians. Like it's a big music scene out there, right?
Cool.
So I have a lot of musicians in my family, especially on my mother's side. So I got into music early. I didn't really get into it though until like high school. And that's when I started occasionally playing. I was teaching at Broadway Music in Orangeville, Music Hall at the time. And that's where I started hooking up with like Jeff and the original guitar player, Neil. And that's what got me into the band circuit. And I was just like one of the only guys willing to play bass. A million guitar players. And there's a quick tip for anybody who's trying to get into the music scene. If you're a guitar player, learn to play decent, solid bass. And you'll never have a night where you don't have to worry about working. Awesome. There's a million bands that need bass players, good bass players.
Really?
Yeah, and good rhythm guitarists. Everybody wants to be the lead player, but nobody wants to just strum or pluck. It's that's the foundation of a decent sounding band.
People have egos when they're younger, right? That prevent them from getting into that stuff.
Yeah. So I remember, when I started playing in high school, I was playing bars at like 15. And I loved it, right? And
awesome.
I already pretty much said, this is what I want to do. I love it. I work hard at it. I want to keep doing it. And, so my mother would be like, you got to have a backup plan and all this stuff. And what all parents worry about. So eventually I went in, I'm trained as a video editor. I worked in Toronto for about a year and a half. I've done other stuff. I've done some electrical stuff and fiber optic cable and construction and a little bit of everything. Not much, just a little bit of it. And I always just did it to supplement music. And I remember when I was doing the video editing, I had to make a choice at one point because for me to make real money in video editing, I had to work nights and weekends and work a lot. It's like music is a cutthroat industry. Film is worse. And while I was doing good work and I was getting ins and got work right away out of school, I would have had to cut out music. And I just kind of made a decision at one point just saying you know what, I'm going to do this. And as soon as I made that decision, first of all, it was like 100 pounds of weight off your shoulders. And I worked harder than ever. If you're doing what you love, you'll do it better than any other job, right? Because you like what you're doing. That being said, it's funny, people ask me, they're like, how much do you practice at home? And I'm like, no, I don't. I should, but I don't. On my days off, I don't necessarily want to play a guitar. It's just, it stays in its case.
Do you practice your job at home?
Exactly, right? But at the same time, I still love my job.
Yeah.
I always liked music, but I didn't really say I was going to do it for a living until just college type of thing where I kind of committed to it and haven't stopped since. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome that, again, you had options, but you were able to make it work with this, which is great because there's so many people that, you're a good role model for them. So, I mean, it's...
Yeah.
But
you have to work.
Yeah, that's right? The key, right? You have to work to get...
Yeah.
And you were doing this since you were really young.
Yeah. But and then the business side, I just kind of learned and then committed to it. And you have to understand that this is a business that while, right now we're doing well.
Yeah.
And we might get up another level or so, but there's not too much more, I think, for us where we can go to because there's only so many days in a year and so many things.
Yeah.
So I'm always still thinking about the future. And about how else I can grow myself as a businessman, because first of all, your fingers and your voice only last so long. Sometimes they go faster than you want, and sometimes they go for a long time. But I'm already thinking of what am I doing in 10 years? What am I doing in 5 years? And
smart.
But it all kind of revolves around music or production or voice or something.
Yeah.
Something where I'm using my talents that I have to do. I'm not thinking of, in 15 years, I'm going to go get a real job. It's like, no, it's whatever I can do right now, and then whatever I can try and do to make it something that's going to last, right?
Yeah.
But that's just business.
100%. You got to adapt.
Yeah, especially these times where everything's so bloody expensive, and everybody kind of works week to week.
That exactly, job security isn't there, and I mean, especially when you're in business for yourself. I mean, there never really is that job security.
No.
It's all on yourself.
That's why I made the joke about the dental. It's like it's like it's a risk. We have months, this time of year we're pretty slow, and you have to make sure that you budget yourself as a musician. You have to make sure that you know, and any business, real estate, anybody like that will tell you have your down times, and you have to make sure that you squirrel enough to, or make sure that you budget enough that you can survive that, so that when the good times come, you're not just playing catch up. You know what I mean? We're definitely not getting rich doing this, but if you can make a living doing what you love, I say you do it.
Yeah, and keep stress levels low. That's one of the goals.
Oh, there's always stress.
Yeah.
Musicians are crazy.
So did you have any role models or positive influences growing up?
When I was younger, I've always been really close with my parents, and we always had music in the house. And the cottage. We spent a lot of time up in Minden at our cottage that we used to have, and the music was always on. So it was just like, music was always kind of there, and my dad liked it, and so did my mom, and I had a really good childhood. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I had a great time, great bringing up. So my folks were just great role models. And then when I moved into Caledon and Orangeville, and meeting like Jeff, my business partner, and a bunch of other good musicians in the area, I kind of learned from them how the business works a little bit.
Awesome.
And then, so there's good teachers in school and stuff like that too. And you pick the best parts from what you learn from good people, and then you try and cut bad people out. You know what I mean? I used to try and appease everybody, try and keep everybody happy, which you'd have to do to a certain extent when you're kind of leading these band type of thing situations. Because again, musicians are A, crazy, and B, have egos. And it's those egos that make you who you are, make you a great performer, make you a great player, but they have to be, delicately balanced, and sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes it does. But I used to really worry about what people thought and what people thought of me, and I still do, but only in that I want people to think I'm a good person, because I try and be a good person, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody's going to like you as a person, not like you just as your personality or get along, and I've learned to just kind of let that go a bit, because that stuff eats you up. And now that I have like 2 kids and, a loving family, they come first.
Yeah.
And then, you have to make sure that you are taking care of your business side of things. And if something is interfering with that, you got to cut it loose. And that might lose a friend or something. But in business, if you're mixing that too, and with our business, you always become friends with who you're playing with, because it's a bonding experience. You spend a lot of time with each other, and you have to kind of like the person you're playing with, otherwise it comes out. But the problem is, occasionally, if something interferes with that, then you might lose that friendship. But you have to think about you and your family and yours kind of first.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean to be a jerk. It just means you have to make sure that everything is good in your life and in your situation, and then you worry about the next person. Because I say my life, my family is like, but you can't please everybody, and you shouldn't always try.
No.
You know what I mean? Like you should, I feel like I'm going deep here. It's you have to make sure that you're in a good place.
Yeah, exactly. You need to make sure you're doing what's comfortable with yourself. And I mean, when you mentioned your role models, like it's great that you mentioned all ones that you know. Like, I mean, I'm sure if I asked quite a few musicians, they might point out like a famous person or something like that. I think it's awesome that you're pointing to people that you know, because I mean, these things that you're talking about are all things that you really only learn from people that you know and experience that you have firsthand. Yeah. Versus, seeing someone famous on the television or something like that. You're not going to learn those kinds of lessons that actually help you out in your life from them a lot of the time.
Yeah, I have like plenty of influences of musicians that I like the way they play, and I like the way they carry themselves. There's other musicians, like famous musicians, where I like the way they play and I don't like the way they carry themselves.
Yeah.
And, it gives me a bit of a lesser opinion of them. But I mean, in the end, I don't know any of those people.
Yeah.
So I mean, I never even thought of it that way until you just kind of said that. But yeah, the major influences are the people in your life that you love and that you respect and that you learn from.
Yeah.
So,
no, that's awesome. And I mean, more people should draw from people they know, because I mean, there's great people such as yourself in this community who are great role models, and I mean, people would benefit from it. Oh no, it's 100% true. Because I mean, again, we're very lucky. I mean, there's tons of people. Like, again, with the event that's coming up, the Sick Kids event, like, that's amazing. Like, most people wouldn't even think about doing something like that. But here you are, setting it up and then growing it from last year to be something even bigger. Again, so many people could learn from something like that. And we're so lucky to have somebody like you in our community.
I appreciate that, man.
Well, it's 100% true.
I mean, the sick kids thing is the way I've always kind of based that kind of stuff is that I don't have a lot of money. So I can't really, do a lot of support in that regard because I have to support my own.
Yeah.
Right. But what I do have is a bit of an outreach.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a voice in this community, and I'm mildly locally famous, I guess you'd say.
You are. I mean, our first meeting, someone came up to us because they knew you.
Yeah, people know who I am, right? Because I've been around a long time, like a bad smell. You just, I'm there, I'm just lingering around. But when you get to a point where you do have a little bit of a thing, you have to make sure that you're putting out a positive message and doing positive things. And, I love my kids to death. And I think that of all the things I've done the band does other things. We've done things for hospice. We've done things for cancer research. We've done a bunch of different charity work because it's just, again, it's something you can do, right?
Yeah.
But to me, the sick kids was always just, I've only, because again, I was supposed to go down there and do a photo shoot as well. I just haven't had a chance to get down there, but I've never been in the building. But all I've heard is nothing but incredible things. Sometimes very sad things.
Yeah.
But very incredible things. Another good one is the Ronald McDonald House.
Yep.
Just these kind of places, they do so much for such an important part of our way of life, our society. They say children are the future. It's legitimately true. But they do so much, not just for the kids, but for the families. And now they're building a brand new hospital. And so while, in the long run that we may not be contributing a super ton of money compared to other things, but it's something I can do. And while I can't donate the money myself, although I have, but I mean, like, I can't go and cut a check for, like, last year, $6,000 out of my own pocket. But I have the tools to put something on that not only are people going to enjoy and that's going to have good effect in our community, but I can raise the money that way and do things. I'd like to be involved with local sports. I'm involved with somehow, in some way, I became the vice president of minor baseball in Orangeville.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which still not sure. I think I fell asleep for a second and woke up with, I think they slipped the card in my pocket or something. But I like being involved with kids, and I like being involved with the community in that regard. And I'm sure I'll continue to do that kind of stuff because I can. Like, this is something I can contribute. I don't have the deep pockets to do anything else, so I can use what I've got. And because as we said, when you run your own business, you have the finance situation is vicarious. But one upside is that you make your own schedule.
Yep.
And it does allow me to have time with family. It does allow me, especially during the week, and it allows me to do things that not necessarily other people can do because they're kind of tied down to this 9-to-5 situation, which is work. It's life.
Yeah.
But because my work is when I book it, it allows me a bit more to do extra things.
Yeah. And I mean, you can raise awareness for great causes like the stuff that you're doing, which is awesome. Well, again, like, we're so lucky to have you in our community because, I mean, Sick Kids isn't even based here, but again, so many people from our community have stories there. I mean, theoretically, this could take place anywhere, but thankfully, you're in our community making it happen here, and the entertainment and everything else, it's in our community, which is great.
And that's the thing. This town, Orangeville, Erin, Alton, Caledon, for this population size, the amount of musical and artistic talent in the area is unreal. I came from Brampton, and while there are good, there's some very, very talented people in Brampton. It seems like I don't know what it is about Orangeville, especially. It's like this, it's something draws artists here. And you have just an amazing art scene, a great live music scene and music scene in general. You have some great festivals like the Blues and Jazz Festival, which started off as like 3 bands playing on a wooden stage behind the town hall, and now is like, what do they say, one of the top 20 or 30 attractions in Canada every year. Like, it's a massive thing.
Yeah.
And that's Larry Kurtz and a bunch of crew of really good people. They'll do that. There's other great events and the beautiful art and stuff like that, and the drama scene in town. It's a very artistically, it excels in that regard. Every other person can play musical instruments, it seems. And there's just so many good little bands and big bands and solo people and talents. And you have people that used to work and live in the city in Toronto, something like that all have kind of snuck up here and have great little studios and stuff like that. And the town supports live music. There are like, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 venues in town alone that have music at least every Friday or every Saturday. And they get it. They bring in decent acts. And it's a town that almost expects live music. And you go to a pub or a bar in town, you're almost shocked not to see live music. You know, I wouldn't necessarily go to a sports bar to watch live music, but if you go to a pub in town, it's probably going to have some sort of music or entertainment.
100%. I mean, like even Fromage now, like they're bringing in some jazz musicians.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
That's how good it is. I mean, while we're on that topic, so I think you would say that Orangeville does a good job in like the Dufferin area with cultivating artists.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is pretty awesome. We're pretty lucky because I mean, like you said, like once you get to the city, it kind of gets drowned out in the noise.
Oh, there are just incredible players and musicians in like Toronto and stuff like that, but it's just so saturated, right? Like it's tough. The venues don't have to worry about a budget or anything because it's like they have people just killing to pay. The people are paying to play music, and it's like I get if you want to just play music. And you're not working for money and stuff like that. You just do it for the love of music. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But don't pay.
Yeah.
Don't pay somebody for you to play music. That's ridiculous. You wouldn't pay to do any other thing like that. So that kind of stuff, that drives me nuts about the city. And I worked down there for a while, and I've always kind of been a country person.
Yeah.
I enjoy it up here. And I find that the crowds are better out here, and this up north, out east, wherever. It's just that I find they're a lot better than downtown core of people because they're so spoiled with just so much going on that they just have these massive expectations. It's funny, we actually have a hard time kind of keeping a venue in Toronto for that reason, is that we just have a hard time relating to the people there, like to the crowds. It's just, too many TVs and too much going on, and it's just, But meanwhile, this area has been amazing to us. Mono, Amaranth, Shelburne, Orangeville, Erin has been amazing the last little bit. They keep us going. Like we just keep getting the private work. And that's the thing. People go out to see live music, but then when they have parties, they bring it in too.
Good.
And even DJs and stuff like that. There are some very good DJs. There's lots of DJs that are just not DJs. They're just people who press play.
Yeah.
But it's that they want entertainment. There's something there to do it. And the fact that there's so much work for live music is such a great thing. And without this area, we wouldn't be anywhere close to where we are now. I think if we were this band based out of Brampton, we wouldn't have the same amount of things because we wouldn't have worked as much early on when we spent a lot of time playing in Orangeville in the area. And then we'd have to drive like 3.5 hours to Sudbury to play a show.
Whoa.
And don't get me wrong, we had some great fun times when we were younger doing those things. But now the fact that we don't have to leave the area very often, it's a blessing. It's really, really good for us.
Yeah, 100%.
We're just waiting for the day where they get sick of us.
Well, thankfully, you guys, again, like you have such a variety and you have so many members you could draw from, right? You have such a wide talent pool. I think you guys really are set up for success.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is our first commercial break. We're new, so we'll just take this time to let you know more about what Dufferin Spotlight on Business is all about, which is a weekly show that features discussions from business leaders from around Dufferin County regarding their businesses and accomplishments. The achievements of small business owners largely go unnoticed, but it is our goal to recognize them, as these are the people who keep small communities like ours alive. In addition to this, we will highlight the advantages of shopping local. So be sure to check back each week to see the amazing things people are doing through their businesses. To learn more about what we do and other shows that we will be producing, be sure to check out dufferinspotlight.ca. Now I hope you enjoy the rest of Dufferin Spotlight on Business. So, if you don't mind, where was your first job?
Well, I mean, my dad had an electrical company for a long time, and I did a little bit of work with him, but that was just like not doing any electrical work itself, just grunt work.
Cool.
So that was probably my first thing. But my first actual job that wasn't for him was at Broadway Musical.
Oh, yeah.
And this was 2001. When I moved from Brampton to Caledon, I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
Because it was like the day after I graduated grade 8, we moved. So that summer, I think I volunteered at a swimming pool. And then my mom signed me up for lessons at Broadway Musical. So I took lessons there on guitar and like bass for a little bit, probably a couple of years. But I'd already started kind of hanging out with some of the people there. And as I said, I played a little bit of saxophone and I played a couple of shows where I just kind of came up for a song. And then I took up the bass. I was horrible, but I said, yes, sure, I'll play the bass, anything to play. And eventually that kind of for a long time was like my main instrument, but it was teaching there. That was my first thing. Because after a while, I guess I was good enough that the owner decided, I could start having a couple of lessons of my own. So I had some like young kids, like very beginners, and I would just teach them basic theory and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden it kind of blew up and I got a whole night's worth, to the point where all of a sudden he was like, by the way, you're not taking lessons anymore. I'm like, I'm not? He's like, no, I gave your spot to a student. Right? I was like, okay. And then, so that was like the end of my lessons and the beginning of my full-time teaching. And I taught like 4 times a week for years. And then I work at a store a little bit too. And then, and I've worked at a few different music stores in town over the years. And it wasn't until some of my students became teachers that all of a sudden I was like, I'm over this now. Like, I'm done. I've been doing this a long time. And I have 2 kids of my own. And it was like, my patience level, it became almost non-existent. I needed all my patience for my own children.
Exactly.
And own things. And it was tough, working every night, because I worked every Friday, every Saturday, a lot of Thursday night shows, occasional thing on Sunday, which I generally try and keep open for family. Yeah. If it's a long weekend, I'll do a Sunday thing, because I know it's Monday. But I like having Sunday at home with my family. Good. And in the summer it's a little different. I get to generally keep most of my weekdays open. Yeah. My wife works, and I have the kids at home, right? Cool. But the only problem in the summer is that it makes it hard to do studio stuff, because I literally have all the kids. So this time of year is usually where I'm trying to do most of my stuff in the studio, because as you're here right now, it's empty house. Yeah, quiet. Which for a long time, I didn't have that, because I'd have one of them at home. Yeah. And then as soon as my wife got home, I'd run off to go teach, and then I'd come home and eat whatever cold dinner was left. And then the next day, do it all over again. It was just too much. Yeah. So it's like, I'm a big sports guy. I love Maple Leaf fan. Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes. And I love basketball, I love baseball. So being able to watch some sports at night is nice too. Yeah. And exactly. And just being home. I like cooking, so it's like I'm home for dinner, making dinner, and so as much as teaching was very gratifying. And again, I got like one of my students, Sarah Rose, a longtime student. She's playing at that benefit. She's just released her second album. She's doing very well for herself. Awesome. And I have a few other different students over the years that are out either teaching or playing. And it's great to see, and that kind of stuff, it makes you feel really good that you touched them enough to influence them to play. Yeah. Just like the teachers have done for me in the past. But I don't know if I ever go back to it, just because I've passed that point. Yeah. But it's an entirely different skill set. Yeah. I mean, entirely different demands on you too. Yeah, it takes patience, and there's some incredible teachers who are very good at it, and I think I was good at it too, but I just don't have the patience anymore, or the time to do it. If it was during the day, sure, but at nighttime it's tough. Exactly. So did you start, buy, or inherit this business? Technically, Jeff started it, Jeff Catlett. He's the other Campfire poet. Him and Neil Virgo, our original guitar player and longtime friend, they started it back in 2000, and it was mainly just a duo. And Jeff had that drum, but it was like very different back then. I was going to ask. It was just essentially a djembe. Like, he didn't have all the cool ways he can play it now and the cool sound. It was just a drum. And Neil played guitar, and they started off by hosting a jam night at what was the Winchester Arms at the time. And that was their main thing. And then they would have other gigs, just occasional other Winchester Arms in the area. They'd play a few shows and stuff like that. They were playing together in a band called Joe Mama, which I played in as well, off and on. It was one of the reasons I started playing bass, was because they needed a bass player. And they released an album, and almost a second one. But I joined just after they released that first album in 99, I think, or 2000. So yeah, they started the band, and then when they first expanded it to be like a 4-piece electric band, which eventually be called the Electric Campfire Poets for a few years, and I joined on bass. And then I haven't left since. Like, I've been in the band that whole time. But Jeff definitely ran the business side of it for the first half of it. And then he decided he wanted to take a step back and focus mainly on the sound side of it. Like, he has all of our equipment. He's really good at that side of it. Yeah. Right. So, he makes sure we have all the right equipment and everything right. And I deal with all the band bookings and managing the budgets and the money and all the musicians and stuff like that. So I guess inherited it, but it was just kind of more like just became business partners, especially after Neil had to leave because he couldn't juggle his family and the band anymore. Yeah. Which is tough. Yeah, it's a tough thing to do. 100%. So he's doing great now. But yeah, once I kind of became the de facto other main guy in the band. That became a good partnership between me and Jeff. And again, he's happy letting me run the one side of it like that. So it works out well.
Well, that's good. I mean, like, to have a partnership like that, I mean, to have someone that's good with the technical side and then you with the business side, that's match made in heaven, really. Like,
it does really work really well.
Yeah, and then you both can play together on stage. That's a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I've never been there, but I can imagine that's, again, a whole separate thing, which is another management aspect of it. But, I mean, it's pretty awesome that you both can get along. And then, because, I mean, I've seen videos of you guys playing together. Like, you really can tell that you guys get along and you guys do have the chemistry to keep it going. Like...
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it was just about 20 years between the two of us, and 20 years for him for sure. You definitely develop it.
Yeah,
either you develop it or you don't. Like, I don't think people can play together that long and not like each other. Like, it just doesn't work. And no, it works really well. And again, because of that camaraderie, it's almost infectious. It's what makes us successful.
Yeah, like when I was growing up, when I'd see people playing together, especially friends, egos, like we've talked about egos before, egos enter it. And like it becomes a competition between the two people on stage. And it's like no one's having fun at that point. But like you said, when you guys have a good relationship and you're having fun up there, the crowd gets to have fun too.
Yeah.
And that's when you're actually a band versus two guys up on stage playing against each other.
Yeah.
Not with each other.
And you have to have like-mindedness when it comes to what you're doing, like how you're doing your job. And in this case, we understand that the number one priority is the audience. And not just because they're the ones that hired you. Well, that's a big deal. You're there to provide entertainment. You're not there to make the most epic music ever. And these people are just lucky to be there to enjoy it. I mean, you're there to entertain. And, it's the musicality is definitely a big part of it. But it's not the be all end all. And most people aren't going to care how many notes you can play in a solo, or how fast you can play on the drums, or whether you can sing, as well as Freddie Mercury, all that stuff. It's about the entertainment factor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want to play music, again, there's plenty of people that play in their garages.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with playing house concerts, or some of the best things I've been to has been like house concerts. Because again, this area is so good for that. There's been groups where people would host an entire festival in their backyard and stuff like that. And there's no money involved in any of that, but you don't do that stuff for the money. You're doing it for the fun and for the enjoyment and the musicality of it. And that's awesome.
And those people still care about their audience to a degree.
Oh, absolutely. But there's no, and again, and I'm not I would never knock anything like that because I've done it too. But when it comes to what we do, this is our living. So the number one focus has to be the crowd, the audience. One thing drives me nuts, I've seen it with other entertainers, and I have no time for it whatsoever, is people that will do the whole things like, this is the part where you clap, or guess you guys don't like this, or whatever. It's like sometimes the crowd's just not. We've had times where the crowd barely makes a peep.
Yeah.
Never claps, nothing like that. And some musicians find that disrespectful. It's like, well, no, I don't. You don't have to. Because I've also had those same people come up and say, you guys did a fantastic job afterwards. And to me, it's like, if they're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the crowd's engaged more, then you can be engaged more. It's more fun. But you can't do it expecting always to have this adoration and this big respect and this ooh, ah stuff from the crowd, because it's not always going to be like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can play music in your house. You can play music with people. You can play it by yourself. It doesn't have to be a job. 100% does not have to be a job. The only times I got critical was when people that don't treat it like a job go out and take paying gigs away from decent bands by taking the gig for either free or next to nothing just because they want to play. And it gives them a place to play because they have a PA system there or something. It's like, if you're going to do that stuff, do it well.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of different levels of playing music, and just like there's different levels of doing everything. I like to cook. I'm not a chef.
Yeah.
Right? I would never charge somebody for my food.
No, I'm not going to go on stage and do it in front of a crowd.
No, that's the thing. You can do things just for fun, and that's good.
Exactly. Hi everyone, Josh here with another commercial break. So now that you know what the show is all about, let me tell you more about what our mission is with Dufferin Spotlight as a whole. We are looking to cover issues that do not get enough attention by the public, in non-divisive ways, with the hope of increasing awareness and moving discussions forward. And in addition to this, with our content, we also aim to support those affected or are trying to solve these issues. There are a lot of issues we like to cover, which means a lot of shows. We already have a new show slated for this year, this one completely unrelated to business, but still involves the people of Dufferin. We've got a lot on the go, so be sure to follow Dufferin Spotlight on Facebook to keep up with the latest news. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode of Dufferin Spotlight on Business. So, what was your biggest challenge in starting this business?
Oh, I mean, there's lots, but I don't know. There's a few parts to that. One is finding the right people to be in the band, and then cultivating it to be in a good place.
Yeah.
You know, we've had issues in the past where we've had a couple of different core groups where the band went for, you know, really took another level, a step up and stuff like that. But it's just making sure that everybody's happy, everybody's in a good place, and that you know that you can, because when it comes to booking this, sometimes you're booking a year and a half, 2 years in advance.
Oh, yeah, especially weddings and stuff.
Yeah, we're signing contracts, and it's usually my name on the contract. I have to make sure that you got people that are going to be there, you know, and who knows where you're going to, nobody knows where they're going to be in 2 years, but you got to make sure that you have the right people so that you know you can fulfill the job, right? You can, and sometimes that was hard to make sure we had. So that was always one tough thing. But the other thing was just breaking into the scene and building a name. And for years and years and years, the first half easily, you know, we did everything I said bands shouldn't do. You know, play for $75 each, and you're paying a booking agent, you know, more money than the individual band members playing, and you're driving, you're putting on miles, you're breaking cars, it's that old saying of drive $5,000 worth of gear in a $500 car, 500 kilometers for $50. And I mean, you have to put in your time and your dues. I know lots of people who say, like, you know, when it comes to breaking into the music industry, as far as like your own music and stuff like that, is that a lot of it's luck. And it is. When it comes to being like in a band like ours, luck is some things. Getting a couple of good gigs can be lucky by having the right people there. But you got to play. You got to play as much as you can, and you got to learn. So, you know, we drove a lot of miles, and we played some really crappy places. We played some really crappy places that we had more fun than we could have imagined. We played some really nice places that were not fun at all. You know, you learn how to deal with some shady people. Like there's some bar owners are just not good people, and that's just every business. But the fact that we deal with a business that you're dealing with alcohol and it's interesting. It's a hard scene to be involved with as far as being an owner, and it's a hard scene to work in, and it takes a toll on people. And we've dealt with people in the past that are just not good, and whether it's because they partake too much in their own product, or they're just not nice, or they're jaded, or they're just burnt out, and then this is who's in charge of your financial success. So it's like you have to learn who are the good ones and who aren't. You learn how to tiptoe around certain people. You learn how to be firm with others. And occasionally, you learn when to walk away, because sometimes it's just not worth it. And the biggest challenge for us was just, you know, not so much playing, because back when we were doing it, there was still a lot of venues, and there was agents that had a lot of rooms. So while you weren't making a lot of money, at least you were working. Yeah. But after a while, you have to kind of make the choice of either we're going to have to do something to take our act to the next level, or we're going to burn out, because you can't play bars for like 40 years and like it, or 20 years, or 10 years even. You just play nothing but bars and then go anywhere, right? Yeah. It just becomes a part-time job that you do that takes away your whole weekend. And if you're going to give up your weekend, a lot of people, that's the big deal. Weekends are weekends, right?
Especially if you have a family.
Yeah, now that I have kids, it's like, I don't sleep. Yeah. Friday nights I work and then get up in the morning and we take my son to hockey. It's like, it's tougher to do. You're not going to do all that for $100 and $40 bar tab. That's when people burn out. Yeah. So you have to find a way to make your band step up. And that was what we did with both, just not worrying about playing just songs that we wanted, finding the songs that people wanted to hear, and then making sure they're good, and then getting interactive with the crowd, making sure that they came first. That made a big difference as far as the type of quality gigs we got. And then making sure that when we occasionally got the nice private gig or the corporate thing, that we went over, above, and beyond to make sure we left them saying, wow, I can't believe we only paid this much for that. So that the next year they want to pay you more just because they feel guilty. Yeah. And it's like, that's what it became. It was, we play a wedding, and we still do it, where we play a wedding, and it's not cheap, but we're still one of the cheapest things there. And that's not because we're trying to be. It's just that's how much this costs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then when it came to another biggest challenge was the time, the year I decided that we were going to up our rates for private events somewhat substantially. We decided, we're good at this. We're good at these private events. We know we're giving value for what we're doing. So when you increase your rates in an area where they've known how much you cost, everybody's hired you at one point, it's a risk. And you all of a sudden you'll go, the first few people you say, it's this year, it's going to be this. And they'll go, well, we're not going to pay that. You either make the choice of saying, okay, well, for you guys, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Or you put your foot down and you say, no, but this is it. And it's surprisingly, the type of clientele will go up because the people that know that you're getting value for their dollar.
Yeah.
Now, of course, they have to have it, but you risk not working. And there was one summer where we didn't have as much work because of that.
Yeah.
But you stick to it. You have to make the risk that, hey, I might not work this Saturday. You probably will, but you have to understand that you might not work it.
Yeah.
You can't give in and take a bunch of bar gigs for a band in July knowing that private work is possibly coming. And for us, we're lucky enough that we know our summers are going to be good. And this year we were lucky enough to spend a lot of time up in cottage country too, which was great. That was nice. It's almost a little bit, it's good for the soul.
Yeah.
But that was a big challenge, was just whether we do it or not. Whether do you increase the rates and risk losing work, or do you stick to what you have and work as, that was back when we were working like 200 shows and doing weekly shows somewhere and stuff. And you have to make a choice. And we did.
Yeah.
And it paid off.
Good.
It's just, I don't know if that's everybody's approach. I don't know if everybody should do that. But I think you have to value your time. You have to put a value on your time. And if you're working someplace for a long time, you expect to have a promotion. You expect a raise.
Yeah.
Right? There's no difference in this business. You have to put in the time. But then once your time is in and you know that there's demand for you, you have to price it that way.
Well, that's it. Like, I used to manage pricing for one of the biggest companies in this country. And I mean, when we didn't stick to our guns on pricing, that is when we got beat. Mm-hmm. I'd see it time and time again. We wouldn't learn from our mistakes. But you really need to stick to your guns when you know it's the right decision. And it does pay off. Because, I mean, our competitors would stick to their guns and they'd beat us. Mm-hmm. Right? And, I mean, that is the right thing to do. If you know it's the right thing to do, like for any business owner out there, stick to your guns, because I know it's easy to compromise, especially for existing customers and stuff like that, but you really do need to stick to your guns. Super important, because like you said, even if your business does go a little bit down, but maybe your revenue goes up in the end, it's a lot easier to manage that schedule. Because 200 shows a year is crazy.
Yeah, we kind of made a decision over the last couple of years that we want to either make more or make the same, but work a little less.
Yeah.
Because you do burn out. And it hits a point where all of a sudden it's like, okay, we just played all these big parties, these corporate things, a big wedding. And now we have a couple of weeks in a row where it's like bar gigs. And sometimes you go, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, I don't know if I in me. Like my fingers hurt, my throat's sore. And I just played these big things and now I got to go back and play these small shows. But you have to, first of all, it's like, well, as I said before, you still got to do them. You still got to work.
Yep.
But second of all, if you decide at a point you want to step back a little bit just for your own, it's good for your soul to have a weekend off.
Yeah.
That was a big decision that we made a couple of years ago. Just say we want to work a little less, but we want the quality to stay the same or go higher.
Yeah.
Which means it's not just sit around and wait, right? Like you have to be in contact with people. You do have to push yourself around and you have to do a lot of schmoozing.
Yeah.
And you have to learn to negotiate a little bit and then stick to your guns, but also be realistic. There might be a little bit more budget for a larger event. And then that way you can take a little bit less from a charity thing or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
But you can't give yourself in completely to too many things like charity, as much as I support it big time. But if you do too much, it affects your bottom line. And 100%. Then all of a sudden you're the charity case.
Yeah. And you can't do all the great work that you want to do.
No, you're better off picking and choosing moments like that.
Yeah.
And then that way you're doing your best job and supporting the best you can while still surviving.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was as far as the challenges. Those were the biggest things, and then just learning what equipment's best, what sounds are best, and just learning the little basic things that make you sound a level up.
Yeah,
3 bands play Mustang Sally 3 times in a row. One of them's going to sound the best, and it probably has nothing to do with the way it's sung or played. It has to do with the sound, it has to do with the groove. You have to have a solid rhythm section. and you have to have people that just know when not to play.
Yeah.
And so many bands they all play, and they all got something to say, and it's just an argument. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah,
better off-
exactly.
Everybody has a place. Just sit back, and if you can't figure out what it is you're supposed to play, don't play.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's great to just listen. It'd be like the singer singing the entire time. You know what I mean? It's time to go to a nice solo or something like that, and the singer's going, yeah, ooh, yeah. Here's a dialogue. You have to leave space.
Hi everyone, this is Josh here with a third commercial break. So now that you know about the show and the overall mission of Dufferin Spotlight, you're probably asking yourself how we're going to pay for it all. We will provide advertising opportunities to interested parties, primarily local businesses, so they can reach people just like you. We prefer working with small local businesses as that's what we are, and it stops us from getting too reliant on big corporations who already have enough influence over the media landscape. If you are an organization who is interested in working with Dufferin Spotlight to promote your products or services, please reach out to us through our website, dufferinspotlight.ca, so we can bring your community to you. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode of Dufferin Spotlight on Business. So, do you have any advice for those starting their own business?
As far as, say, starting up your own or continuing your own business in entertainment or this type of thing, is just stick to it.
Yeah.
Commit to it. If you're only putting in half the effort because you're afraid that it's not going to work, it's not going to work. You have to go full bore. You have to, sink the time. And again, that's hard. Sometimes that's just not possible. You have bills to pay. You have things to do. And if you can't put the time into it, it may not be the thing to do right now. You may have to wait till you're a little older or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go 100% into it and commit to it and then stick through some of the bad times.
Yep.
And when you see something that's really good, you got to go harder on it. Like you got to really push the good stuff to improve what you're doing. Obviously, when it comes to music, learn your instrument.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And learn how to make it sound good. Don't worry about making it sound loud. Make it sound good.
Yeah.
There's microphones. You put a microphone in front of your amp, say on a guitar player, and you put it into the big 10,000 watt system. We don't need your little 22 watt guitar amp to fill the room. Let the speaker system do it. Just make it sound good. Drummers, don't drown out the band. Band, don't drown out the drummer because that's the other thing too, is acoustic instruments can only play, like a drummer can still be one of the loudest things on stage.
Yeah.
But he's mic'd. He doesn't have a volume. There's no volume level on that. And there's no real volume level on a vocalist. So a drummer can only just play harder. If a drummer's playing too hard, it's not only detriment to the band or to the sound, it's detriment to the drummer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like if the band's too loud, the drummer is going to play too loud. And there's nothing else you can do about that. You got to turn down.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if a drummer is really drowning out a band that's not, that's the drummer's fault.
Yeah.
But you have to also think about your vocalist in that, it's either we have a floor monitor or you have in-ears. We use a lot of in-ears. But if you're playing too loud, you're probably drowning out the front. And if your instrument, your guitar, your bass is too loud on the stage, you're not getting put out the front. So you have this bad mix of vocals and, say, keys or whatever coming out of these big speakers that are pointed across the whole room. Yeah. And then you have the sound of your guitars coming from this very specific spot on the stage. So it might sound good in this part of the dance floor. You take 10 steps back and it sounds like just nothing else but vocals because that's what's pumping through. Yeah. Meanwhile, the people on the dance floor can't hear the vocals. So it's like... You gotta learn your craft, just like any other business, but you gotta learn your craft, you gotta learn your sounds, and you just have to learn that it's not all about you.
Yeah.
Even though, as I said before, we said about the ego, you have to make it a bit about you in that you're entertaining.
Yeah.
Right? But understand that you are entertaining. But yeah, we're not perfect, and I'm not perfect, and I don't think any musician really is.
But you try to be, really.
No, but you shouldn't try and be. You should try and do your best.
Yeah. 100%.
But have fun with it, because if you're having fun, most of the time they're going to have fun.
Exactly. And if you try to be perfect, you're probably not going to have fun then.
No. And don't expect to get the big high-paying gigs right away, because and it's not because you didn't put in the time or whatever, but it is because you didn't put the time in, because nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
And you probably haven't learned how to do those bigger shows yet. You may not have enough time playing live. And again, you can rehearse 200 times a year. As soon as you get in front of people, and as soon as you get in front of equipment that's not yours, with sound guys who may be very good or not good at all, or somewhere in between, with equipment that could be very good or really bad. There's so many variables that change.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something where you're not in control of your surroundings, you're not in control of your sound system or anything. You can only go with what you have. So you have to learn to adapt with what you brought. You can't change what's going on up there, only what you're doing on the stage. And that kind of stuff you don't learn without doing.
Yeah. And every crowd is different.
Yep. Oh, I've heard, Jeff and I were joking about this the other day. We heard some recordings from us way back, and we were like, oh man, like people hired us? like how many 2-4s did we drink that day? Because holy cow. There's 4 guys playing on there, and I'm pretty sure we're all on different planets.
Having fun, though.
Oh, we had fun, yeah. And then the crowd was probably just as drunk as we were at the time. So, but that's learning, and of course you don't have to drink to play. But
no,
this is way back when that's what we did.
Yeah, young.
Yeah, but it's you need to put to the time and get better at playing live because they're very different. And I know lots of people who record really well. They sound great when they're in a studio or acoustically when there's no interference and stuff like that. And then they get to go play live and it does not translate well because they just don't know how to do it. And for people really breaking into it, go find a jam night. Go find a jam night or 10 and just play. Play the same 3 songs for a little bit. Who cares? Just go to a bunch of different ones. Not the same one. Go to a few and work on your craft live in front of people with crappy sound systems. Because if you can make them sound, because they're almost always crappy. We did a jam night for 200 jam nights, and our sound got better and better as it was. But we spent the time, and sometimes musicians would get mad at us saying, like, come on, I just want to play. We're like, no, but this crowd that comes here every month knows when it sounds good. They're used to things sounding good. So we're going to take 5 minutes of your precious time, and we're going to make you sound good. Not make you play better. That's on you.
Yeah.
You might be playing very well, but we're going to make sure that it sounds good out there, because otherwise you're up here just playing for you, and the crowd has to sit through it.
Exactly.
Just like a bad karaoke singer. And it's not just turning up the volume. Sometimes it's turning down the volume, but it's a lot to do with EQing and making sure everything's balanced. And if you go play some jam nights in other places, that might just be literally a plug and turn up the volume and go.
Yeah.
If you can make that sound good in your performance, then working with the better stuff is easier. But people who are used to just playing in their house with no interference, such a night and day. And you're going to sing too hard. You're going to play too hard. You're going to burn out your voice by the end of the show. You're going to get calluses and bleed in your fingers and stuff like that. And you're going to have a blister the next day. And you have to go through all that just to A, toughen up your body, and B, learn how to use your instrument and your body's instrument to make it last.
Yeah, 100%.
And that just comes from doing it. That's the only way you can.
Actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So are you currently hiring?
Not really hiring. I mean, obviously, we don't have any. We don't have full-time salary people. It's Jeff and I, and then we have the main guys. We always are looking for something different as an auxiliary player. We're not looking for anybody to play every single show, but we meet people, we hear people, and then we see if it works out. We've done some shows with people where it's like we've heard them play, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you should come out to this show. We need a 6th person for this one, and maybe play it." And sometimes it's like, that was amazing. I can't wait to do that again. Other times it was like, yeah, I don't think we need to do that again. It doesn't always work, but a lot of times it does, because we usually find people that gel. And, they have to be able to laugh and joke around and be stupid with us, because that's how we are. And if you're too stiff, it's like, well, it's probably not going to work out, because, we're going to say something and upset you or something. You have to, and it's a business, so you have to have a bit of a thick skin, but you have to just roll with the punches. And the people that we work with, they do that, right? And they also have to be able to understand that on the occasional time, musicians will go on a tirade. Yeah. And that's part of it. So you got to roll with it. So yeah, we're not looking actively for anybody, but there's always future spots and future ideas that might come up. And yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, the best kind of people you usually find are when you're not looking for them, right?
That's almost always true.
Yeah.
That's well said.
So yeah, it's good that you guys keep an open mind for future opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So on a related note, do you have any plans for expansion?
We've had ideas. part of the reasoning for like the Sick Kids concert and stuff like that is for me to get better at organizing larger events and stuff like that. So that might be something in the future that I move into a bit.
Smart.
I mean, we're too, I don't know, stubborn or stupid to think about writing our own music, which we haven't done in a long time. We've had people asking forever about, when's the Campfire Poets CD coming out? And it's like, it should have came out 10 years ago. But as we said, when you play so much, and that's one of the reasons we want to scale back a little bit, is just to give us more time to do occasional other musical projects and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or, occasionally just play for ourselves. But mainly also, if we were smart, write an album. Because, well, everybody kind of writes on their own type of thing in the band. It's like we'd never sat down and really just made it through something ourselves. And that's something we should be looking at. We've talked about putting together a theater show. There's always ideas. But again, it's also just finding the time. Because on your downtime, when you play as much as we do, when you're on your downtime, you don't necessarily want to play or even thinking about playing.
Yeah.
You have other things you want to think about. So there's always ideas, but might try and do a couple of really cool things this year for the 20th anniversary, but they're all planning stages still. We also have we've had bands in the past. Jeff and I were involved with a band called Rhythm Forward for a bit, which was our 6-piece reggae band, which was fun. And that was mainly, we play a couple shows a year, but that was mainly just for fun. Jeff and I both love reggae, and we both wanted to play that more. So that was fun. And we have a band now called the Firecats, which is a rockabilly version of this band, where we play with this great musician in the area named Greg Kowalczyk. I can never say it properly. He's going to yell at me. Except for it's Greg. He's going to talk quietly to me. We play with him, and it's Steve, Jeff, and I backing him up, and that's fun because it's completely different. It's all rockabilly and old blues and stuff, and he's the front man, and we're just there to play. And the same deal, though. The same principle applies. We make sure we involve the audience. But that one's just a little bit more of a playing for yourself type of band compared to the other ones. But it only does a couple shows a year. Yeah. But that's just, we started out for fun and just occasionally get hired. But we just keep talking about it, and there's always ideas. But mainly just continuing to maybe grow a bit more into the corporate scene and the private scene, and being able to take the occasional night off, which is nice.
100%.
Yeah, I forgot what weekends are like.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, you have a family.
Yep.
It's very real. Hi, everyone. This is our last commercial break. Thank you all for listening so far, and I hope you've enjoyed it. To keep up with everything that Dufferin Spotlight is doing, you should follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can find other episodes of Dufferin Spotlight on Business by looking us up on Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, in addition to our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Of course, the best way to see all of our stuff is to check out our website, dufferinspotlight.ca. If we are not already on your preferred platform, let us know through our website, and we'll do our best to get on it. That's it for commercials, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Dufferin Spotlight on Business. What would you consider to be your biggest challenge in the years ahead?
Biggest challenge would be probably age. You know what I mean? Like, you can only do this for so long as far as things start to wear and tear. And, unfortunately, we've had some instances in the last couple of years, health-wise, for different guys in the band. They've all gotten through it, which is really good. That's why we have so many different musicians that we need, because we need to have backups for kind of everybody. Not that we're like this aging dinosaur, but
no.
But it's mainly that. It's that, keeping the same thing going for year after year after year. It's just making sure that you always have the right personnel and the right people going, and that if somebody needs to step away, you have somebody to fill in. Because, again, we're keep booking up to 2 years in advance. And to think about what you're doing this time in a year and a half away, anything can happen. And also just, it's just, you got to keep yourself going so that you're going to make sure you deliver the best product you can a year and a half from now. So I think that's just going to be the biggest challenge going forward, is just making sure that everybody's healthy and that everybody's going and everybody still wants to be going. And then the other challenge would be, as I said before, it's just figuring out, so from a personal standpoint, is how to expand me as a business and what I'm doing so that I can grow.
Yeah.
Grow myself, but grow my income, you would say, and my security and my future, and my family's future.
Because you built a brand in this community, right? So you should be able to build off.
Yeah, and that's what can I do with that brand now that's not necessarily always just about live playing.
Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And I've talked about trying to get into voiceover and stuff like that, which I went gung-ho for a little bit, and then I just haven't had the time until recently to kind of get back at it. But I like doing some studio work. I like recording for other people. I like producing with other people. I'm not much for writing words. I think my life has just been too good. I always find the best lyricists are the ones that had hard lives or something. I've been fortunate enough to not have one, so I guess I just don't have enough to say in that regard. But I like working with people's songs. I like writing them and arranging them, and I'd like to do more of that in the future. It doesn't necessarily have to even be the Campfire poets, although that would be smart.
Yeah.
But I like working with other people, and I like using that and using my studio for stuff. So that's kind of the future, and along with just continuing to grow the Campfire Poets and playing maybe some bigger shows, and then be able to take a little bit of time off.
Awesome. That's good. I mean, I think with a lot of things you said, like a lot of business owners could learn a lot. Because, I mean, really looking towards the future and looking to expand, I think a lot of people could take good lessons from that. Because, I mean, it's easy to, once you've gone to a point, like to rest on your laurels, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to keep going with this as long as I can. But again, like when you're looking at the long-term health of your band members and stuff like that, and making sure you always have replacements, there's people that don't even think like a week in advance. You're thinking years in advance. And I mean, which is great. I mean, again, a great lesson that many people can learn from. And especially in the music industry, because I think you'd have a lot more people being more short-term with it. But you, again, I guess it comes with the business part of it. You're thinking long-term, which is great.
Yeah, you have to. I think
100%.
And that's every business. When things are going good, you have to be thinking about when things could be slow, when things could be going bad, what could happen, and backups. And you just have to make sure you're secure. And, there's always the chance that just 1 year it dries up, and that's where it's like, I have to try and start figuring out what else can I do that if for some reason we can't do what we're doing now, or just the band goes away to the point where it's not viable as a full-time job anymore, you have to have something else. Otherwise, it's like go try and find a part-time job. And when you get older, you don't want to do that necessarily. So you have to constantly be thinking about it. And every musician and artist and things like that should always be thinking of having like 4 or 5 things on the go, but not 4 or 5 things that take the same amount of time, because you'll never do anything well. You have one thing that is your main focus, and then you make sure you have enough time to do that properly, and then with your spare time, you should be always trying to look for something else.
It's good, because I mean, like, you repeatedly said that you've had a good life, but it's awesome, because most people with good lives take them for granted. But you're always looking for what possibly could go wrong. Like, you're being smart about it. There's too many people that take their lives for granted, and the good times. But again, like, you're ready to go with it, and it seems like, again, like you're prepping for anything as much as you can.
Yeah.
As much.
Now I'm starting to sound like a end of the road prepper or whatever I call them. Want to see my bomb shelter? No, I just think you gotta be smart about it. You gotta treat it like every other business and every other job. Is that it's in the end you got to pay the bills, and you got to make sure that you survive. And again, I'm certainly not rich. I'm paycheck to paycheck like almost everybody else. But I find people who make probably $100,000 a year are probably paycheck to paycheck these days, because everybody spends what they got. But it's tough, and you do what you do. But I just happen to do what I love, so I don't mind working hard at it.
That's good. Yeah, because I mean, that definitely does help. And I mean, again, that's a piece of advice right there. Just do something you love. We say that all the time, but really do it.
Yep. Or at least do something you like.
Are you looking forward to anything in the near future?
Near future, the Sick Kids thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing how well this grows, how many people we can get on board, and if it's viable to make it bigger next year or to expand it maybe to a whole thing. I look forward to just some of the upcoming shows. I look forward to a little bit of downtime this time of year, which is nice. And then I look forward to the complete opposite, which is the summer, which, from May to September, we play a lot. So I look forward to that too. And then just things in my own life, my family life. It's fun to watch it grow and watch my kids grow and see how they've improved in things and where that takes me. So.
And just a reminder, I mean, I'll make sure we post it on Facebook as well. But the Sick Kids event is April 11th.
Yeah,
right?
April 11th, 2020.
Easter Saturday.
Easter Saturday. most people come home anyway, so
Awesome.
no excuse. We're working on other things. We might have some shuttle systems, but if not, it's only just out of town. Uber's in town now, so
Yes.
it's not hard to get places. You can finally get a cab. There's going to be a lot going on with that night, but if you want to get tickets, go to thecampfirepoets.com and click on Concert for Sick Kids, and then there's a couple of ways of buying it there. It's on Facebook. There'll be an Instagram and a YouTube going. There'll be some promo and videos going out soon. We do have a show coming up with Sarah Rose, who does a lot of great work with Hospice Dufferin.
Okay.
And we're doing it at the beautiful and it's unknown to a lot of people, but should be, In Memoriam.
Yeah.
The room is spectacular. It's beautiful, sounds amazing. We filmed some stuff in there already. But she does this great show every year, and it's Harmony for Hospice. I hope I got the name right. And so we'll be playing that with the Campfire Poets 3 there. I'm sure Sarah will join us for some songs. Tickets are available online. You can go on our Campfire Poets Facebook to find it. And then, we have some other shows coming up. You can check out everything online, thecampfirepoets.com. Yeah, we have some really cool shows coming up in the summer. Obviously, this year we're headlining Ribfest in Orangeville again, and hopefully the weather's better this year. And because it's our 20th anniversary, we might do something fun. We'll see.
Cool.
But, and then we have a couple other shows that I haven't announced yet because they're not announced yet. But there's one very exciting one that I'm looking forward to coming out the summer that's going to be fun. And otherwise, everything's there.
Awesome. Thecampfirepoets.com.
Yeah,
right?
thecampfirepoets.com.
Awesome.
Because until recently, somebody owned campfirepoets.com. Somebody was smart enough when, I guess, we played our first gig to go, I'm going to steal that. I think it's available now, but thecampfirepoets.com.
Awesome. So be sure to check them out, and also on their Facebook and Instagram page as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what will happen after you leave the company?
I don't know. I think if that ever happened, I think that would just be because it's done. You called it a brand, and I do kind of feel that way, that, the name has gotten enough attention and enough, people know it in the area enough that it is brand. It's a business now. So whether it's us playing or us doing something else, I think we'll always be involved. That name will always be there in some way or another. I think if we stop playing live, it'll just be because we're too old and tired or something.
Yeah.
Which I hope I know. I don't look it, but I'm like 34, so I hope that's not anytime soon. But it's you never know what happens in a few years. But right now I got contracts for 2 years from now, so I'll be around that long.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to otherwise.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we wrap it up?
No, mainly just thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for the use of your studio as well.
Oh, it's no problem. It's my pleasure. It's nice to use it. And I encourage people to listen to more of your podcasts.
Thank you.
I give a bunch of them a listen, and they're great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, please make sure, to follow the Campfire Poets on Facebook and Instagram. I know you guys have a very active Facebook group too, where a lot of your shows are posted, like your future shows are going to be posted.
Yeah, when the guy who posts them doesn't forget. I don't know his name. I don't know. Jan Ray or something. The guy's a jerk.
So awesome. So what would you say is the best way to contact you? Through your website?
Yeah. Email through the website.
Awesome.
And that's the best way because I always get it. And I can respond. Email's always easiest too because it's all written down.
Yeah.
And I'll probably ask you a lot of questions as far as details. So it's nice to have it all in one spot.
That's good.
As opposed to me in the car on the phone trying to memorize it. I've managed to of all the years doing the bookings, I think I've double booked us 3 times. 2 of them I think were for the same place though, so sorry. But all 3 of them I'm pretty sure came because I was booking it with a Bluetooth in my ear driving, not being able to write it down until I got home. So email is always the best. I'll talk on the phone, but then I'll usually ask for it to be written in an email afterwards because it's just easier. Gives me time to think about milking every dime. No, I'm just kidding.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right, everybody, that's it for this episode of Dufferin Spotlight on Business, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Ryan for taking the time to help us out with our show, and for those of you who listened. To see all the great things that the Campfire Poets are up to, including the details around the Sick Kids benefit where you can see them play live next, join their group on Facebook or check out their website, thecampfirepoets.com. If you'd like to learn more about the people and businesses who make Dufferin what it is, be sure to check back every Tuesday for new episodes. The easiest way to do this is to follow or subscribe to our show, wherever you prefer to listen. We are currently available on Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, in addition to Facebook and YouTube. Of course, you can find all of our episodes and more on our website, dufferinspotlight.ca. If there is anywhere else you'd like to see us, please let us know through our website, and we'll do our best to get on it. Until next time, get to know your community and shop local.